Big, big, big win for the Chicago Bulls as they beat the Jazz 107-109 at the United Center. The Jazz were the last undefeated team in the NBA coming into this game, and the Bulls have taken that away from them as they got a win, a major win against this Jazz team. We're going to talk about this incredible defense by the Bulls, DeMar DeRozan's 32-point performance, and also the Bulls not shooting a lot of threes, not making a lot of threes, but still ending up winning the game against a very, very good team in the Utah Jazz. But before we get into though, welcome back to TheSlamDuncan YouTube channel. If you would, leave a like on the video. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into this game. I want to kind of go just quarter by quarter here. I want to talk about overall, though, first of this game. I think this Bulls defense is really legit. If you looked at my season preview, I said that this Bulls defense is going to be very good in this league. And so far, we're seeing that just through the first 6 games. The doubters were like, no, this Bulls defense is going to really be bad. They think they're going to score a lot offensively, but the defense is really going to struggle. Honestly, it's been the opposite. It's been the Bulls defense has been by far their best part of their game so far this season, and the offense is definitely still having some kinks to work out. But that's okay, right? You would rather have your offense have issues than your defense, and so far Billy Donovan, I think, has done such a phenomenal job with this Bulls defense, and you're really seeing it in a game like this where the Jazz only shot 38% from the field. The Jazz were coming in as shooting one of the best field goal percentages in the NBA. They're one of the top teams that take three-pointers and make three-pointers. They shot 28% for the field today, and luckily the Bulls did not foul them that much. A guy like Donovan Mitchell can get to their free throw line a bunch, but he didn't get to it that many times. Only 19 free throws by the Bulls. As you can see, the Bulls had 30 free throws, which is part of the reason why that even though the Bulls did not make or attempt that many threes, they were still able to score 107 points and have a pretty okay offense in this game. Big thing I was looking at tonight was the rebounding battle, as Rudy Gobert is one of the best rebounders. You could call him the best rebounder in the NBA. And as you can see, the Bulls did not get out-rebounded that much. The offensive rebounds are actually only -5 for the Bulls, so that's good to see. Interesting thing to look at, though, is that this Bulls team, this kind of points out some problems within the offense. You usually see a Billy Donovan team have 20-plus assists on every single night. This game, though, that was not the case. And a lot of that has to do with the lack of three-pointers made. But this team still won the assist category. They probably shouldn't have, but they did. But it still shows that this team has a lot of shot creators on this team that can go out and make the shots. And of course, then the big thing right here is that the Bulls only had 9 turnovers, as the Jazz had 20, and a lot of these 20 were forced by the Bulls defense. It wasn't just the Jazz playing sloppy. The Bulls defense was really getting up into their faces. And not allowing them to get into the lane, which caused a lot of turnovers. And it was just phenomenal to see this Bulls defense play so well. First quarter was definitely, I was like, man, this is a pretty good defensive effort. The only thing is that the Jazz shot 1 for 13, I believe, from 3 in that quarter. Maybe it was 0 for 13. But they had a lot of open looks. And that was the one issue with the defense. I thought the defense was doing phenomenal pick and roll in the first quarter. I thought they were doing a really good job of running off the initial guy off the three-point line. But once the Jazz started moving that ball around, which they do very effectively, and they swung it to the weak side, we saw a lot of open threes for the Jazz. And luckily, they missed that in this game. Second quarter, I thought DeMar DeRozan came out and absolutely just was on fire and was leading that second unit. Everything was running through DeRozan. He was the main guy. And he absolutely took over. We're going to look a little bit at his highlights in a second here. But he really led that second unit. And the second unit got to an 11-point lead. But unfortunately, then the starters came back in. And Donovan Mitchell absolutely went off in that quarter. And he hit some ridiculous shots. But yet again, though, I'm like, this is still pretty good defense by the Bulls. I understand Donovan Mitchell just hit some phenomenal shots and is making all these shots. And the Jazz got back into the game and were leading by 3 at halftime. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at this Bulls defense is still doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? I know a lot of people are picking on Vooch this game. I think you have every right to pick on Vooch for his lack of offense in this game, but his defense I actually think was pretty solid this game. A lot of it has to do with him being up on the pick and roll, and he was doing that perfectly fine this game. So we'll talk about Vooch in a second here. But even though Mitchell and the Jazz, they had a good quarter, I still thought the Bulls defense was pretty good. I mean, it's an NBA team. They're going to score even against great defense. But we really saw the defense pick up in these 2 quarters right here. Only 15 points for the Utah Jazz in the third quarter. The Bulls really ramped it up on the defensive end. I thought Ayo Dosunmu had a phenomenal game, even though he didn't score a lot, but his defensive activity on Jordan Clarkson really shut Jordan Clarkson down. Donovan Mitchell did not have a good second half. He only had 8 points, and that's, again, a credit to the Bulls defense. A lot of the Jazz run a lot of horn sets, but you saw the Bulls, they were actually doing a pretty decent job on those horn sets because they have multiple guys that can guard multiple positions. They can switch multiple positions as well. So it's like it worked out very well for the Bulls, and good job by Donovan to scout early on and pick it up for the second half when the Jazz really start running that set. And of course, then DeMar DeRozan had a phenomenal game, specifically that second quarter, but he had a clutch shot down the stretch. He had a very good fourth quarter, in my opinion, as well. So it was great to see. And Zach LaVine did not exactly have that great of a game from the field, but he got to the free throw line a lot this game, which was phenomenal to see by Zach. I'm saying that I think Zach's defense is just looking absolutely incredible, specifically on ball. I've called Zach LaVine a pretty good on ball defender before this season and even last season, but it's his off ball defense that still has some issues, and we're still seeing it. But his on-ball defense, I still think is right now, you're seeing that he's a phenomenal on-ball defender, and he's really getting over those screens. And remember, he's hurting right now, and we saw that a little bit in the third quarter, that he was kind of grabbing that thumb. But he pulled up in the fourth quarter and was like, I'm gonna make some big shots, and he did. But quick look at the box score here. Javonte Green got the start in place of Patrick Williams. I will make a video about Patrick Williams and his injury in a little bit here, but I want to kind of look at some trade options that I think are some pretty decent options for the Bulls here, because a lot of people are throwing out some trade options that I'm like, this is not reasonable. It's not going to happen. So I kind of want to take the time to kind of look at it myself. But let's look at the box score here overall. DeMar DeRozan, just take a good look at this. 32 points, plus 15 from the field. He led the second unit and was taking charge this entire game. Phenomenal game by DeMar DeRozan. As you saw, he got to the free throw line a little bit as well. But 13 for 22 shooting. A lot of it from the mid-range area, which is absolutely fantastic. LaVine was 6 of 15 at one point from the field and 0 of 3 from the three-point range, but he hit a big three in the fourth. And as I said earlier, he got to the free throw line this game, which was great to see by Zach. And then, honestly, the only other person we really want to talk about is Nikola Vucevic, who was at 1.2 of 16, but he had 2 clutch shots down the stretch, which is why, you need him out there. A lot of people are saying Tony Bradley should be the one closing the game. And I think Bradley came in and had a phenomenal game, as I think he's finally fully healthy, and we're going to definitely see Tony Bradley get a lot more minutes because I think he is fully healthy now. But Vucevic needs to be in the game at the end. He just has to. He has to take away that shot blocker out of the paint, which is Rudy Gobert in a sense. So just, good job for Vuce for not getting down on himself. And he was absolutely upset at himself, but it's okay. He was like, I'm going to keep pushing through it. He still ended up getting a double-double in the end, and that's why, he's a very good player. And we can talk about Vuce a little bit more after I get through the film here, but I know people were hating on Vuce this game, and I was even hating on him as well. I'm like, you can't shoot 2 for 12. The Bulls were giving him so many open looks. It was bad for Vuce throughout the entire game, but he hit those 2 clutch shots, and that's why he's out there, right? He can hit those clutch shots, and you need him out there, or else the spacing is going to be absolutely screwed in that closing unit, right? So you need Vucevic out there in the closing lineup no matter what. And again, I will say this. I think his defense was actually really good tonight. I think he was up on the screen. He was very active with his hands tonight. He's not going to get blocks, guys. He's just not going to. He's not going to defend the rim like how you saw Tony Bradley defend the rim in his limited minutes tonight. It's just not who he is, but he can still be in the right position, and that's what he's been doing so far this entire season. So, overall, pretty good. I want to kind of just look over a little bit here. As I want to show DeMar DeRozan just having, his way against the Utah Jazz tonight. I had a little bit of a feeling that DeMar DeRozan would actually have a pretty decent game because the Utah Jazz, their defense really, really guards the three-point line and the paint, right? If they see a shooter at the three-point line, they run him off the three-point line because they want to then force that shooter to run into Rudy Gobert in the paint, right? And they understand that teams don't really take the mid-range shot in today's NBA game, unless you're the Chicago Bulls, right, which you have DeMar DeRozan. But because they don't really value guarding that mid-range area, I'm like, DeMar DeRozan's going to absolutely have a field day today because a smaller team. The Utah Jazz they play very small, like the Bulls 1 through 4, right? They don't play like a legit power forward. They play more of a tweener at the 4 position. But a lot of times you see a lot of 3-guard lineups out there for the Jazz, and I just knew DeMar DeRozan could take advantage of those lineups all day. So this is when he checked in at the end of the first quarter, which is when he usually does. And right here, we're going to see the pick and roll. And as I said earlier, like you see that where the Jazz, they don't really guard in the mid-range area. Now, this is actually a zone defense by the Jazz, and this is interesting to see. We saw that this wasn't going to work for them very quickly because DeMar DeRozan's too good in this area. But you see where they're guarding, right? They're more worried about the three-point line, and then Rudy Gobert handles the paint. They don't care about that mid-range area. And so you see pick and roll here. You see how far back Rudy Gobert is. Now, DeRozan has an open shot right here, but because the Utah Jazz's defense, this is again zone, they're not really paying attention in this play. Derrick Jones Jr., who had I think a very good game in this real first game where he got real minutes, playing baseline where he should be and gets the dunk. And I thought Derrick Jones Jr. and a lot of role players tonight for the Bulls were just phenomenal. Another play here, and this is what was really working so well at the beginning of the second quarter for the Bulls, which is when DeMar DeRozan had probably his best run in the game. They were so Eric Paschall was the main defender for DeMar DeRozan, and Eric Paschall's like a 4, but again, he's a tweener, right? But instead of always having Tony Bradley be the guy who's setting the pick, right? You don't want Rudy Gobert to always be in the action because that allows Rudy Gobert to come over and double or allow him to come over and block the shot, right? You want to keep Gobert out of this pick and roll action sometimes, especially when you don't have that great of spacing. And with this lineup, there's not that great of spacing on the floor. So the Jazz put Jordan Clarkson, who is obviously a phenomenal scorer, but he is not that great of a defender. And the Bulls went right at Jordan Clarkson with DeMar DeRozan. This is throughout his time in the second quarter and right here at the end of the first. And you had Derrick Jones Jr., who is being guarded by Jordan Clarkson. He sets the screen against Clarkson, and then it forces a switch. So now you got Jordan Clarkson on DeMar DeRozan, and as Shaq would say, this is barbecue chicken. So now this is just DeRozan easily just going at his defender where he is at his best, which is obviously this mid-range game right here, and he just knocks it down. This was just happening throughout the entire second quarter at the beginning, and again right here, putting Jordan Clarkson in the action. This time we saw DeRozan fake denying the screen and then use the screen. Look at Clarkson again. Where is he? Nowhere to be found. Not that great of a defender, but again, you're seeing what the Jazz want to guard. They don't care about this mid-range area. And right here, you see that DeRozan, he actually then gets Gobert to come at him because Gobert was worried about him once he stepped into the paint. This then led to an Ayo Dosunmu three-point shot, which is one of 5 3-pointers made for the Bulls in this game, which is kind of crazy to think about. But that's how it was for the Bulls. Now, this is just simple, straight-up isolation. Eric Paschall, I think he's actually a pretty decent defender, but when he's out there guarding a guy that can handle the ball like DeMar DeRozan and a guy that can absolutely just isolate and score, this is a bit of a mismatch. And again, just go right at him. This is DeMar's area, and he scores. Again, here we go. DeMar DeRozan gets Eric Paschall. Isolate everyone out of the way. And again, one thing that I did mention before this game got started was that the Bulls need to make sure that they don't always run the pick and roll because, again, it brings in Gobert. But if you isolate, right, that doesn't allow Gobert to come in and help on the ball every single time, right? This allows DeRozan just to have as much space as possible and not worry about a shot blocker coming into his face. And it's just like, all right, well, you're going to let me isolate. You're on an island, and there you go again. That was just constant throughout this entire second quarter. And I do want to just watch this play right here. I actually have not seen. I don't always watch the highlights before I put them in the video here, but you saw tonight though what the Bulls were trying to do, and that was it's just a simple pick and roll. You're seeing what the Bulls were doing in this game, and that's they fight over the screen. The big man comes over and gets into the ball handler's face. And we would actually want Rudy Gobert and others to actually make the play. You don't want Donovan Mitchell making the play. You want other people making the play on this Jazz team. And this is a very good pass by Jared Butler right here to a wide open Joe Ingles. But either way, though, that was the idea tonight, was that take the ball out of the main ball handler's hands. And this is where Mike Conley was sorely missed tonight for the Jazz. But then you force the Jazz's other guys that aren't that good with ball handling to make decisions, and that's what helped the Bulls a lot defensively in the second half. Here we go again. It's just put Clarkson in that pick and roll right here. So here, scream at Derrick Jones Jr. This time though, they try to hard hedge, and you see Clarkson kind of jump out and try to swipe at the ball. DeRozan's too good of a ball handler. This doesn't even matter. Pascal's still caught up on the screen right here, and I'm gonna guess that this was supposed to be a switch. It just was poorly done. And this at this point is too late. And maybe it was just supposed to be a hard show by Clarkson and then get back to his man. But Eric Pascal was being screened by Derrick Jones Jr. for way too long. And if you stay like that for too long, DeRozan's too good for mid-range. Hence that shot right there. So that was DeMar DeRozan at his finest tonight. And again, the Jazz just don't value guarding that mid-range area. I'm like, oh, this is perfect for DeMar DeRozan. Just let him go to work. And that's what DeMar DeRozan did tonight. So really good stuff by the Bulls tonight, and DeMar DeRozan having a phenomenal game. Last thing I want to talk about was the defense, which I've already mentioned how well they did. But there is one play today that made me like, oh yeah, the Bulls have worked on their defense. And I was really happy to see this because the Jazz are a phenomenal three-point shooting team. They're all about to drive into the paint and kick it out type team, right? That's their offensive scheme, is that they want to drive it into the lane and kick it out for three-point shots. But remember this play? I talked about this at the end of in my post game for the Knicks and Bulls, right? This was one of the plays I was pointing out, which was you see the simple pick and roll with Kemba and Randall. You see that Kemba gets a drive into the lane. You see Vucevic come over for the initial help, which is good. You see DeMar DeRozan slide over to help Vucevic's man, which is good. But then the issue is right here, right? Zach LaVine had to be here because it is a much harder pass to throw from the baseline out all the way to the top of the key three-point shooter than it is to throw from baseline to the guy in the corner, right? And right here, this ended up being a wide open RJ Barrett three. There was a play, though, in the third quarter. It was the exact same situation, and you saw the Bulls play it perfectly because it was Donovan Mitchell doing the exact same thing that we just saw Kemba Walker do, drive it into down baseline, get into the lane. You saw the help defense rotate, right? But instead of LaVine being up here, you saw him over here guarding the corner man, and Mitchell had to throw it all the way back out to the top of the key shooter in Royce O'Neal. But as I said, it's a much harder pass to throw out there, and it gives the Bulls defense a little bit more time to rotate out. But it was such a hard pass that it went into the ground, and Royce O'Neal couldn't handle it, and it ended up being a backcourt violation for the Bulls, or for the Jazz. So it was a turnover by the Jazz. But I'm showing you that this is what the Bulls defense needed to work on, and just from one game to the next, and they did that, right? This was such a big part that the Bulls need to work on from the Knicks game, and you just saw in just that one play, I'm like, oh wow, the Bulls worked on it. And for all the people that are putting in the comments, just like, if you watch the game, Duncan, then you wouldn't be so stupid, or watch the game before you start commenting. You don't think I watched the game? I remember a lot from every single game. I watch every single game. Do not question that. Don't say to me that watch the game, Duncan, and then assume that, oh, you're smarter than me just because you don't think I watched the game. I watch the game. I know I do, and you better believe it from these videos. So I'm just pointing out to you that this Bulls defense has been phenomenal, and don't question me if I don't watch the game. I watch the game. Don't ever question that. So hoping you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Bulls got a big win against the Utah Jazz, and hopefully some of the doubters are now quiet. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.